We're going to get this budget workshop called to order at 5:30 p.m. on June 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Howell,
Here.
Commissioner Whites.
Here.
All right, we're going to have the invocation and pledge. Father, we thank you for letting us be here on tonight. We thank you for those that are on the way, those that are here, that you would just protect, cover this city, God, and continue, God, to help us move forward in the right direction. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Mr. Vice Mayor, before we get into the budget presentations, I'm asking that you consider scratching facilities. Mayor Grunder sent me an email and he had some concerns, but he's in Italy this week and he didn't ask me to remove it, but I think if he has enough concerns, and we're gonna spend a lot of time on police tonight probably, so I asked if we scratch facilities for the next meeting.
Right, I entertain a motion.
I move we move facilities budget presentation to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign, 3-0. All right, overview of the following budget departments. Police department is up first.
So again, remember, this is last year's numbers that you're looking at. This has nothing to do with the 2026 budget. This is to help educate you on how to read and what is in the police budget. A lot of different items get put in different lines, so if you got questions, ask through it, and we'll try to summarize them for you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Mayor and Commission. Antoine Shepard here, Police Department, Police Chief on the behalf of operations of the Police Department. So let's start off by stating that the Police Department represents a significant portion of your budget, which is traditional, it's standardized because it's public safety. So you see that across all entities, even on the county level where there's a sheriff's office. Now, while municipal police services are essential, they certainly are not required. You're not required to have a police department, but we are constitutionally required to have sheriff's office by state mandate. So we always try to push our folks to understand that what we're providing here is enhanced policing. And so from that perspective, if we're going to provide service, our service should not be of the same level of our counterparts. It should be a higher level of services. So I want to start by talking a little bit about those particular services. So you see that we have, when it comes to, in terms of our response times to non-priority service calls, we run about 6 to 10 minutes in average timing to respond to a call. A non-priority call could be like a traffic crash with no injuries. It could be a burglary of your vehicle that happened 2 days ago. When it comes to priority service calls, we respond within 2 to 4 minutes. That's our average time frame. And again, a priority call may be a traffic crash with injuries. Could be a domestic violence fight that's in progress. And so we pride ourselves on those response times and being responsive to the public. We're very community oriented, a police department where you'll see that we do things that most police departments or sheriff's offices or larger agencies do not. We still do funeral escorts, we still do vehicle unlocks. We're very active in our community as far as the National Night Out and our schools. You'll see that our school resource officers are pretty active. I meet with our school resource officers every third Wednesday to get a feel of what's going on in our schools. They give us a daily report, which is a monthly report that is cycled with daily reporting within. I'm on some of the SAC boards that are at the school, so I'm actively there, and our school resource officers are active. When it comes to our investigations, I meet every Tuesday with our investigations unit. So I talk to them about what cases are out there whether they're small or big. We find out, do we have suspects, what are the victims, what's the end, what's the beginning. And so I'm very intimate on that in terms of knowing what's going on within our organization. So that's more of an enhanced policing model that we're getting as opposed to regular services. And as I said, I stress to our people that we're going to provide a higher rate of service when it comes to policing. And if not, then why have a High Springs Police Department if we're going to provide the same level of services that our counterparts would provide? So we'll start with the budget. And I think the first part here is personnel. So, yep, personnel, you'll see that here. We are a 24/7 operation. So we're here holidays, weekends. We're here during the storms, the hurricanes. You'll see that there are multiple officers out there working, so we're always working, so we're 24/7. Our salaries make up a large portion of our budget, and so it's kind of self-explanatory there. We have overtime. We try to stay within those limitations of overtime. Sometimes I have control, sometimes I don't. I don't have control over what the courts do in terms of subpoenaing our officers. I don't have control if there's a major incident that occurs and our officers have to stay over and work those incidents. But we try to build that information into our budget based on the historical data that we receive every year. We do pretty well in that. When you see billable overtime, it can be a little deceiving. So I'm always talking to Diane at times because I'll be looking at our overtime saying, okay, whoa, we're 40%, we're 50%, we're 70% near our overtime. Well, it's mixed in with our billable overtime. And billable overtime is where we bill venues for off-duty details. So if it's the Pioneer Day, Chamber of Commerce, BMX, University of Florida, we bill those folks and it's somewhat combined into our regular overtime. Our longevity is there. FICA, retirement, life, worker compensation, unemployment, all those are fixed things that are within the budget. And of course, we are high risk retirement, so that also impacts us. Okay, next. When it comes to our training and travel part of our budget, there's two parts of travel and training. We'll go over them, but this portion here basically covers our mileage, our hotel, and other costs that are associated by the travels. The different travels or the different trainings that we're doing can be also with our criminal investigation division. At the end of the month, you'll see that our school resource officers will go to FASRO. So that will be taken out of the budget. That's to give them some training about new laws and updates and best practices as it relates to school resource. Our civilians also a part of that portion. Sometimes they go to evidence management or retention of records type of trainings. Our professional services. So this includes our external contracted services such as our legal review, specializing in things of that nature. I don't think that was up there, but we'll keep going. Contractual services, that's through Alachua County Dispatch. As you know, we outsource our dispatch. There's some advantages, there's some disadvantages to it. I think there's more advantages to it. Some of the advantages that it's less expensive. We're able to pay for a product and not have to incur personnel, not have to incur the higher level of training. And you see that in all these industries, it's very hard and very difficult to recruit folks. And so that is outsourced. Another advantage is that we are on the same sheet of music in terms of with the sheriff's office. We can hear their calls. They can counter by assisting us. We do the same for them. So we've been on that system for more than 10 years. I think we transferred back in 2014. So there's some advantages. The disadvantages, you don't have your own. You can't control in that aspect. The convenience factor there, a lot of people like to call, say, hey, I'm Johnny. I can just call. Those are the convenient factors that gives us somewhat of a disadvantage. Wireless police, those are our cell phones. We've become very dependent on those. There's a ton of apps that we are dependent upon from a technology perspective. Our body watch cams are connected to that. How we connect onto our server, all those different, there's a ton of apps that the officers have to utilize currently they're having to use some of their personal cell phones to attach to get to those and connect to those. We're trying to work on a fix in that area. Our communication, TSR, TRS. So this is what we used to be GRU maintained, but now it is county maintained radio system. We pay to operate off of those services. I think a few years ago we entered into a contract. I think that contract now is more feasible for us. When it was on the GRU, it was continuously rising. I think we're in a lock 5-year contract, if I recall correctly. Utilities, we too at the police department have to pay for our utilities. We have to pay for our water, electric, waste services. We have a copier lease, just like most of the city, having the same item there. Property liability insurance is the same. We have to pay for that as a fixed asset. Repair and maintenance operation, I think you'll see that it's negative there. I think it was more of a mistake that I made when we budgeted last year. Somehow it didn't get there, but this is an aspect that we'll go back and ask for refunding. But this is where we keep our building, any type of upkeep and facilities operational in that aspect. Repair and maintenance of our vehicle. So repair and maintenance, I want you to understand that it includes a number of things. It includes oil changes that we have to do about every 6 months. Also tire replacements, major repairs. We service or maintain over 30 vehicles. Now, historically in the past, this number has exceeded the allocations by 2 to 3 times the amount that was there. So we get up to $70,000, $80,000. I think Mayor White, or Commissioner White, you might recall some of those conversations in the past. We have done very well in keeping in line now. We reduced that number by a significant amount once we got newer cars on there. We still sometime are right near that budget line. So it's done a lot better with the newer vehicles. We've actually had calls from repair shops at times thinking that we had taken our business from them. And I told them, no, we haven't taken them. We just haven't had to use repair of our vehicles as often because we have newer vehicles on the road.
Mr. Vice Mayor, can I ask a question on that one line item, please, Chief?
Yes, ma'am.
Are we having Santa Fe Ford come and do that with so that they're coming to us instead now?
Yes, ma'am.
So that saves time and energy as well.
It saves time, it saves personnel, it saves a lot of stuff because our officers would have to go there.
Right.
Or they'd have to go on their off days. It's very convenient and the price is not.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with them. So,
absolutely.
thank you.
Okay, I think I'm at police. I want to make sure my paper lines up with theirs. So we should be at repair and maintenance of equipment. Okay, okay, okay. Testing me there, okay. All right, so our next is police software. That's our annual licenses and support of our RMS system, our report management system. I'm so used to using these different terminologies, and so just correct me and ask me if I do that. But this is basically our report management system, our servers. IT really manage this aspect, and it's pretty a fixed amount of money that usually does not go over budget in that aspect. We have our canine operation that's pretty self-explanatory. This takes care of the veterinary care, the food, training, those that are associated with the dog. Our office supply aspect, it takes care of papers, pens, folders, and minor office necessities. Operating supplies, it's just our general department supplies, such as our battery, safety gear, and administrative forms that we do and things of that nature. Fuel and oil is pretty self-explanatory. I think we're doing pretty well in those aspects where we are meeting the threshold. Employee uniform, so it's not on this one right here. It includes a lot of equipment, so it's not just the actual uniform. When we hire an officer, we have to pay for the badge, the gun, or not the gun portion, but the gun holster, all the equipment that's attached. So that's pretty much what our uniform entails. Now we do have to pay for vests that comes out of our uniform budget, but last couple years we've been pretty pretty good at acquiring state grants. I think we've gotten in the tune of $25,000 to cover all of our vests. And so each vest costs about $1,300. And that is a significant savings. It's real money when you see grants. A lot of times grants can be for extra things or repayment of salaries, but this is a real savings when you're able to pay for a vest. A vest are only good for 5 years. So after every 5 years, the manufacturer says that this vest is no longer good and we have to, discard it and purchase a new one. So that's a good savings there. Our dues and membership, this is where we pay for different affiliations that we need for just K-9 certification, the Florida Police Chief Association. Those are the areas that we pay, we take it out of there for dues and membership. As I said, there was 2 portions of the budget where we talked about training. This aspect is the secondary part of the training. This right here is not for like your hotels, but it's for the actual certification or course that you take. And so we have some officers that may take a traffic homicide investigator course. We have to pay for that. We have police leadership that we push throughout our organization so they can understand how to deal with the different trends that are in law enforcement. So we pay for that. We've had a few officers that are RAD certified, which is rape, aggression, defense. So we pay for that. We pay also for the certification that is associated with that. Now, a lot of the training that we do encounter, it is free. We can get it through our Institute of Public Safety here in Gainesville, Lake City, or Ocala, but sometimes they're very limited in those capacities. And so the officers take that, and the only thing that we're having to deal with is the gas that go there and the personnel that's there. So, education, reimbursement. I want to brag on the agency. Our agency, 50% of our officers have college degrees, being that always from an associate's to a master's degree. We push on education. We know that experience is equally valuable, but education and experience really equates to a very good officer. Studies suggest that an educated officer makes very sound decisions and reduce the liability of the organization. So I want to highlight 2 of our recent graduates. That would be Officer Drew Wilson and Lieutenant Taylor, who just received their degrees this year.
Vice Mayor, Chief, with that reimbursement, will you reimburse with the masters as well?
Yes.
Very cool.
So we do a reimbursement, it's based off of your grade.
Grades.
So if you come back with an A, you get 100%, B 90, I don't remember the number. I think it's like every 10% on down, but we have I pushed it last year, and I pushed it with our employees this year to get school in, and the police, they do a great job, but the whole staff as a whole has really taken a look at some of their education. Some haven't taken classes, but some are really looking into it.
Very cool.
And we not only push from a college level of education, we push officers from a certification perspective as well. So, we encourage officers to, if you want to be an instructor, you go into instructor technique. If you want to be a detective, you push into investigation. If you want to go in traffic, you have to go in, do this traffic homicide courses. You have to do that. We're an agency. I don't really believe in giving anything to you. I really believe that you have to go out there and earn it and put in the time. So we have a few people who have done that, and they're waiting for positions. And, that's what we encourage for now. I know it's very hard with the generation that we have. And so when I do have a choice, I'm going to, push towards that choice for the officer that's going out there and earn it.
Absolutely.
So that's what we push. Okay. Police, I want to go right back. I think you got police vehicle leases. So you know that we have a mixture of lease and own cars. We've tried a good logic of basically having a mixture of those where now we purchased several vehicles for our opera funds, for our school resource officers, and for spare vehicles. That's the logic that we have, and there's a set amount of money there for lease vehicles. Okay. I think that is it. I think I survived. I have any
Do
questions?
we have any questions?
Go ahead.
Chief, how often is the contract done with you guys? With the PBA?
Contract?
Yeah.
Annually.
Annually?
It's an annual opener, and it's a 3-year contract, but each year there's an opener. Each city has a side and opener. We're right now in negotiations.
What Is there any guaranteed raise as far as salary per the contract, or are you guys still working on that?
So the contract indicates that there's a step plan. The last couple of years, we've have moved that salary up, but also the starting salary. So that's kind of deceiving in terms of the step plan being
Right.
there. So we've had conversation from last year in terms of making sure that we have that separation.
Okay. Great.
We do have work to do in that area.
Yeah. Got to compete.
Absolutely, I agree.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I just wanted to point out, your utilities average $261.92 per month. That's stunning.
Yeah,
My air conditioning bill is more than that for a month in the summer.
it might be that building's so tight. I don't know.
That's, I mean, that's
Might be the whole
amazing.
building.
For all utility, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yes.
I had a question about,
Okay.
how many full-time officers do you have?
We have about 19 full-time officers, if you inclusive of myself.
Well, of course we're going to include. How many reserves do we have?
We have about 4 officers in reserves. We just transferred one to full-time, so I try to keep about 4 to 5 officers on reserves, and I have a criteria where I try to get, if you want to come on the reserves, you do actually have to be active. You have to, show up and do once a month, and, not just sit on our reserve program. So we have a lot of inquiries of people who want to be on the reserves at times,
So
but
the
sometimes they
reserve-
don't meet that
The
standard.
reserve officers get paid for a day a month.
They volunteer.
They volunteer.
They volunteer for it. And
But
so
the-
if they are asked to come out for an event or for a paid event, they can get paid. Or if they
Sure.
cover a shift, they come out for the parade. That's volunteer. That's like
Sure.
Pioneer Day is supposed to be a volunteer, but since we get reimbursed through the chamber,
Yeah.
they're paid.
Yeah. And do
most
the
of them are
reserve
volunteer.
officers all bring vehicles home as well, or do they
No.
share one?
No, they we have about 2 or 3 cars that are sitting at the station, and so they share that vehicle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you anticipate, in terms of this operating budget, it's almost $3 million. What are you looking at for next year? Do you even have a sense for where we're going to be for next year?
Well, I can tell you our salaries are gonna have to be more competitive. That's our biggest aspect. And so I've submitted our, proposed budget, but salaries is the number one. Number one, if we don't, we can have great leadership, we can have a comfortable place to stay, but if we're not being competitive, we won't retain folks in our organization. And so that's the thing that we've been, talking the last few years, that regional-wise, that we are dead last when it comes to in the county and it comes to around us. Cities like Cross City are paying more than us. Gilchrist County Sheriff's Office are paying more than us. And so, with the economy, how it is, it's tight. You can't blame people for looking out for their interests.
Do you feel that's the number one reason why people leave, to get
Oh,
better pay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our agency has done a really great job at retention and recruitment. It's done a great job. We occasionally have, we'll lose people, and we're losing it based on money. And we don't want to put the work into someone where you've got the education, you've done all this with them, and you have to start over with a new recruit by paying. It costs us more in that aspect. And we certainly don't want to be 3-4 positions down, because we don't have a lot of officers out there. Anyways, when you see Gainesville and the sheriff's office that have so many vacancies, it really doesn't hurt them that much, because they do have the personnel. We feel it when we start losing 2 or 3 officers.
Right, right.
So
Do we know who who's going to be the SRO now at High Springs Community School?
we just put out a request for people to file for it, so
And that would be internal,
that's internally. Yes.
since we lost somebody to APD.
Chief, do you have are you guys actively going out to the academy and recruiting? Is that something?
We do occasionally.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I don't have a problem with recruitment and retention. We
No.
don't at times, but we're so we've only lost 2 in the last couple of years.
Right.
But I don't play with the present. I look at the future, and I see the future, and the
Right.
future is dawning.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I agree with
Yeah.
the new development coming in. We've got to start planning now.
Okay. Absolutely.
We got to have the personnel.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, thank you, Chief.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Cemetery is our next budget overview.
Huh? I need a battery? Okay. Good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Jason Keidel, Public Works Director, and I'll be presenting cemetery first. And this is the salaries, so we only have one employee at the cemetery. And let's see, you got Medicaid or Medicare, retirement, life and health insurance, workers' compensation, and unemployment for a total budget of $55,000. Which one turns? Got it. All right. Got utilities. That's just the power that's out there, and there's not much. Repair and maintenance cemetery, repair and maintenance vehicles, repair and maintenance equipment, operating supplies. That's just your everyday stuff, I would say, that you have to use when you're out there, the recurring things. Fuel, employee uniforms, and there's the total budget. Before I go on to roads and streets, you have any questions about cemetery?
You started with the easier one, didn't you?
Well, I didn't start with it, but yeah. I think they're all easy today, so.
I'm just going to interrupt real quick and add that we do have the cemetery fund that the fees go into when somebody comes in and buys a plot. And it's a separate fund as required by resolution. And we transfer the amount of money it takes to maintain it. So whatever the actual spend is for maintenance for that person and those various line items comes from the cemetery fund into the general fund. So even though it's part of the general fund and it's tracked there, ultimately it's paid for by the cemetery fund.
On the roads?
Well, I had a question before
Okay.
we go on. So I know with our previous public work director, he had this map of the cemetery that was behind the Civic Center, but then the map of Pine Hill was quite disturbing because there were like cemetery, there was like people on top of people, they were not like placed right. And he was saying that he was going to try to fix that to make it look more.
We'd need to fix it. The older part, yeah, it's a little bit more kind of everywhere.
Yeah,
The newest, Pine Hill, there's a newer area that we're burying everybody in, and that's pretty good. It's just, we got to stay on top of the people that are burying out there and check.
Old section is not ours.
Oh, it's not?
No, it is not ours. We don't know anything about their burials.
Well, then-
You have to go through somebody else to be buried in the old section of Pine Hill.
Okay.
That still belongs to somebody else. And so we actually have a list of people call and ask, and their families, because there's family plots there, they have to go through them. So we only have the new section.
Can I ask about that? What's the split in terms of total acreage? How big is that piece of land? And is it a private individual that owns that back part, or is it an entity, or?
I don't know if it's an official entity. It's like the list I have to give out for contacting, and I don't know if they have an actual group. I just know to give out this person's name, and she has the information.
Okay.
And I don't know how big that area is, other than what we have on our map. And usually if people call, they just give us a family name. Now, I do have some old records I can look and see, but if we can't find them in our records, it's usually because they're in that old section.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions?
You're good.
All right.
I couldn't answer that.
Roads and streets.
All right, roads and streets. See, salaries, $223,300. You got overtime, longevity, Medicare, retirement, life insurance, workers' compensation, unemployment. Wireless, we got a few guys that have some work phones, and then we also have tablets. Utilities, that's the street lights and the traffic lights. Property and liability insurance, repair and maintenance, right-of-ways, that's like repair to culverts, the swells, if they're not draining right, if we have to do anything. Repair and maintenance sidewalks, we don't normally, a lot of times have to do a lot to that, but if there is a sidewalk we have to repair, we'll repair it. Repair and maintenance vehicles, repair and maintenance equipment, and the repair and maintenance trees, a lot of times that gets used a lot, so. Rental equipment, office supplies, operating supplies. Operating supplies would be like everyday use of stuff like coal patch, millings, lime rock, stuff like that. Tools, fuel, and employee uniforms. Wow, that was quick. Any questions?
Mr. Vice Mayor, may I? This is the operating costs for the last fiscal year estimated.
Yes.
Do we anticipate that there is a bit of bloat in this just because of what we ended up having to do post-hurricanes? Whole lot of utility workers were out there. You guys didn't sleep,
Well, actually, I
for the
think
summer.
a lot from the hurricane helped us with the tree. All the trees are down because we had the debris cleanup come in and clean up a lot of that. So a lot of our trees that we'd normally take out during the year were taken out by the hurricane. And so that helped a lot.
So then from an overtime perspective and that you don't think that there's too much
I don't
that's going to
think
be
there was
off
too much
from
from it, no.
Because you guys were working a ton.
Just for that brief moment, yes. But,
It's an intense brief moment.
yeah. But it didn't really, did you think it?
Yeah.
We are receiving reimbursement for the majority of that overtime, and you won't see it in these numbers because this is the budget number. But really, the biggest reimbursement we get is for our equipment use. So FEMA has a schedule, a rate schedule for each of the types of equipment that we use that we own. And we do get reimbursed for that. So it's not that we're making money on it, but you don't see the direct cost going out. It's the wear and tear on the equipment and the fuel that's related to that. But actually, for both of these storms, we did have overtime, and we'll reimburse the departments where the overtime came from. But it was not as extensive. Like Jason said, it was a very condensed period of time. And then work afterwards, especially after like Helene, when there were grinder pumps replaced, there were many, many hours for that, but it wasn't overtime because it was being done over the next several weeks.
During the day.
And that's not reimbursable.
Now that we're, roughly 11 months out from that, do we have those FEMA funds in place? Have they reimbursed us?
We don't have all of them. We have the $37,000 from Debbie, and we are still waiting for the reviews. The reviews have slowed down drastically in the last few months. So we always have a representative that works with us. We file everything. It gets put through a series of reviewers in various different categories. And normally, what we've seen recently, that would already be done by now, but there's been a huge kind of, I don't even want to say stop, but it has slowed down tremendously how quickly those are getting processed. So I'm assuming it's a staffing issue. I don't know for sure. But we have done everything we can. The person that works directly with us has done all his work, and we're just kind of like CRC first review stage. We do get questions that will come back. We'll answer the questions and away we go. But yeah, we've had kind of crickets for the last few months, whereas we were getting activity on a regular basis that was two-way communication, and now it's kind of cut off. So there's nothing to indicate we're not going to get reimbursed. I mean, everything's moving forward. It's just I don't think the personnel is in place that we used to see.
So that's not necessarily typical for it to take that long?
10 years ago, yes.
Hmm.
The last couple of years, no. The last couple of years, it's been much quicker.
But that's not causing any kind of undue burden for us from a budget perspective?
No, it's not.
Okay.
When that money comes in, there'll be a line item saying that, and it'll go to each department, or it goes into the
Yes.
general fund?
It'll depend on which department it is. So the general fund departments like police and these public works departments, roads and streets, it will go into the general fund, but you'll see it on the line item as reimbursement for Helene. And then the fire department and water, wastewater, depending on how the staffing was split up, they will also see their share.
So these are our costs, estimated costs for this year, almost $600,000. What's our estimated revenue? Do we know from the gas tax and from the extra taxes that have been passed? Do we know?
Well, I want to clarify too, we have a couple different categories with the roads and streets. So we have the general fund roads and streets, so that is more of your mowing and patching and smaller projects that aren't really doing a roads project.
Mm-hmm.
The roads projects like we did last few years with the resurfacing and things,
Mm-hmm.
those were out of the transportation fund, which is where the local option gas tax
Okay,
sits.
so that's different than from this
It's-
entirely.
It'll be the next item, but it
Okay,
is, they're
okay.
two separate funding sources,
Okay.
and, but the roads and streets are paid out of general fund.
Okay.
Like I said, I kind of think about it in mowing, which isn't the only thing they do, but that's more a
Gotcha.
regular daily operation thing, and the transportation fund is more of a project related
I see it
thing.
right here. Okay.
And what's the latest on the sign shop?
I keep trying to get somebody there. We have 3 people on our streets department, and they're going constantly. So we really need more people, and I'll get it there. But there's other priorities right now.
Yeah, is it worth keeping? Is the sign shop worth keeping?
Good question.
I can't answer that. Not till we get over.
so, Don. I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't think that it's worth.
It just sat there, and
Because
Sorry,
even when
I'm
we
sorry.
got it, nobody was qualified to.
nobody
use
was
it.
qualified to run it. The IT part wasn't set up to it, and the software, nobody got trained on it. So it just sits there. Nobody knows how to use the equipment. So we got to find time right now. It's the busy time for Public Works, but if they get a lull, then we'll look at sending somebody out to a training for it. But
I'm gonna have to be down one person for 2 weeks at least. So that's the problem.
Yeah,
If
and
I
I-
can add, I'm sorry, if I
Oh,
can
I'm
add
sorry.
too, we don't buy that many signs. Like,
Yeah.
we spend less than $500 a year on signs.
So why do we have
There's not really a
that?
benefit to that.
It was something that was done in Lake City that they had there, and so the
Lake
previous-
City's bigger than High Springs, so that would
Correct.
make sense. But
Correct.
what was our total capital outlay for building whatever? I've never seen this. Building the facility and buying the equipment. Do we know?
Well, the building itself, the shed that it's in was 17,000.
Okay.
And then there were the supplies and the
I'd say it's about-
machine, so probably another 5. at
Altogether,
least.
$50,000 for everything together. The machine was 15, I think.
Yeah.
And then you
Might as
have the
well call it.
installation, we built out the shed, so.
So it wasn't a. So was that not a big enough project that it had to come before the commission? That's a $50,000.
I don't remember that.
Because it never came.
it wouldn't up because 17,000 is below the 25,000, so the shed got bought. The equipment, 15,000. Anything that's over 25,000,
Okay. Because
25,000
it's separate.
comes
Okay.
here.
So
So
it's separate.
Yep, it's separate.
Well, I mean, I would, as we go forward, obviously, we're not going to make that decision now, but if we don't anticipate using it really, we spend $500 a year on signs, could we use the shed for something else, number one? Or could we surplus the equipment and, make some money off of it? It's never been used.
We can bring it up at a future discussion if you want to.
I mean, I would leave that up to Jason, what you would recommend, but,
Well, like she said, I mean, when we'll look into it and show you though, but we really don't spend too much on signs. And also, what I was told with the sign shop, we were only buying the software, and we were only gonna be doing street signs. It's not set up for stop signs and all that, so that's another software program to put into it. So we were only gonna be doing, your green street signs.
is there opportunity for revenue? I mean,
If
is
we
there
had
a
a guy
market?
full-time on it and we could sell it to other cities, yeah, sure. But, yeah,
Yeah.
and how much do other cities needing to replace their signs, They do replace signs, but enough to have, make a lot of money on it? I don't know.
Okay.
Transportation.
Transportation.
Yeah,
Okay.
transportation.
All right, transportation. This is your local option gas tax revenue, 423,523. And the FDOT sign and signal maintenance, that's 36,000. That's a reimbursement we get from them for the traffic lights and the signs that we have right in front of the school. Let's see, total sources, maintenance and traffic sign, that looks like the same thing. Roads, projects, and transfers fund. Can you explain this a little bit? Okay.
So the top half is your revenues, and the bottom half is your expenses. So prior year balance, because it's a separate fund, we track the remaining funding at the end of the year and we roll it into the next year. So what we do on the budget is we just put the all the sources in there so you know what's available for your budget. We didn't have roads projects coming into this budget, so it's there as a placeholder so that you know what's available. And then the transfer to the general fund, the 269,000, that was in place when I came in, and I think the plan was to try to reduce that over time, so more went into the roads projects. It has not, there just hasn't been the funding available to do that, to ease that back. And I think Jason has a little different perspective on the road projects, on how to approach those rather than just doing resurfacing, but obviously that's his conversation.
Any questions?
Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have a list of road projects that you prioritize for the next year?
Yeah, we actually are out to bid right now, and I don't have it with me, but I think the 16th, the bids are in, and we'll do the reading, and the 26th commission meeting, we'll present it to you.
That's just for one project?
That's for this year's project. Last
Okay,
year's,
so
yeah.
this year's project, that's
Correct.
what I was hoping to.
Yep.
So you've got one major project
Yep.
planned?
And then we'll have one for the next fiscal year.
Okay, gotcha.
There's about 15 streets I put down, so.
Oh, so it's multiple streets, and you
Yeah, well,
consider
what I
that a
did-
project? I gotcha.
I mean, we don't have a lot of money. I mean, you see it right there in roads
Mm-hmm.
projects. So we've before just picked little areas, and I wanted to kind of get a general idea and let me to know, and y'all know how much it's really going to cost. So I put a lot of roads in there that we want done, and we'll be able to pick. We'll get the prices for all of them and see kind of in the future, how much it's going to cost to rip this concrete up and put a road down, or to do this road. And we'll pick from there, because we're not going to be able to do full roads with this money. We're going to have to do part of it. The next year, come back and do part of it unless we come up with more funds. So it's just a different approach.
Where's the revenue from the wild spaces that was combined with the infrastructure tax?
The infrastructure fund, so we have the half-cent sales tax for wild spaces. They added another half-cent. That's in a separate fund. That's in an infrastructure fund. And those funds could be used for roads. They could be
They could.
used for a lot of things.
Okay.
But yes, we do
Okay.
have infrastructure funds.
And that's about $330,000.
Yes, we actually have more than that now.
Oh, that's
Probably
good.
have closer to 500,000.
In just that half cent?
In the infrastructure, yes.
Really?
Because we have
Okay.
last year since January, and then this year to
Okay.
date.
Question. Jason, in your experience, what is the percentage that these projects go up every year?
You talking about the roads?
Yeah.
And my experience is in water and sewer. I'm learning roads, so that's a good question. Yes.
I guess, and my question is, if, say we had a master plan, you came up with a master plan for these roads.
Okay.
If we were to take out a loan at a small interest rate, would that be better to go ahead and purchase that project now and pay a lower interest than having to continue to pay these, these costs of all this material that continues to go up?
You
I
get a
don't-
lot more done faster.
And overall, you think it would be cheaper? I mean, like I said, smaller interest rates, I guess, and what the cost of materials would be.
Prices are always going up.
Right.
So if you can get it now done, you're most likely going to be cheaper than a little bit here and a little bit here. And every year, everything's going up. I've never seen anything go down. I mean, our brass has doubled since I first started. So,
Okay.
and it's only continuing to go up. So.
And it's not unusual for municipalities to use the local option gas tax as a basis to repay loans. In Gainesville, they did it all the time because it was millions of dollars.
Right.
And you would know that you had the period of time that you were going to get that revenue. They would borrow against it, and it would give them the capital to get started on the program, on the project. I don't know, I mean, we'd really have to look at it and see if we have enough funding to make that feasible. But in theory, it's a good idea, because you do need so much for roads projects, and that way you can get it done. Because otherwise, you're waiting for 10 years to get enough money
Right.
saved up that you don't don't really accomplish much. So it's a really good point, and it's a good perspective to look at.
When we get the bids in, you're gonna be able to see basically what we're looking at, because you're gonna see all the prices for these roads, and you're gonna see how much we're putting towards it. Really, we're gonna be doing a little bit at a time. It's gonna take forever to get these things done, so.
Maybe that's something we can look into. Yeah.
We're working on long-term capital planning anyway, so I think that's a really good, and it's kind of like master plan, same thing. Infrastructure money, we've got wild spaces money, they're kind of all coming together now where there's a lot of different resources, and those projects are actually it in a really good way. So
And with those 14 roads that you said is on the project, do we have them by like need, like which one is the most needed? Like, is it in order like that, or is it just we just?
I have
pick-
my opinion. I did it by priority, like most traveled roads, and also by the condition of them. And I kind of picked a little bit from this area and that area. I spread it out a little bit. I mean, one of the roads is on it is 237, and another road that's on it is 179th Place in Patricia Gardens by the Douglas Center. And then I choose 188th Ave also. So I just spread it out a little bit to kind of give you an idea all of it across the city, what it's going to look like to fix this.
I like that approach because it's, you're trying to take care of everybody as best you can, and you're not showing preferential treatment to any one particular part of town, so I really like that.
Well, if not, I mean, I was just going to pick a little area here, a little
Yeah.
area here, and it's going to be a patch and a patch and a patch and a patch, and it
Yeah.
just, I didn't like it, so. I tried something different.
I like the idea. I don't know. I think if we can do something at a larger scale, if we
I
can
agree.
take, so I don't know.
So the next meeting, you're gonna have these bids, and you'll have a little bit more actual data on what it costs to pave these roads. The next meeting, the next meeting is gonna be, I anticipate to be a long meeting, but that can get you the information you need, and then a following meeting after that, we can have a conversation about roads, and you can bring that up, and we can talk, and if the commission is good about it, we can definitely at least research and get you the answers that you need for that.
the other item that we'll talk about at the next meeting also is the general government impact fees. And we're really bringing that as an informational item for you, so you can see what those allowable uses are and what the balances are in them, because we're starting to get some decent money in those, the parks, the general government, and the transportation. The hard thing is, it's not unlike wild spaces where it's gonna be new, so it wouldn't necessarily be resurfacing, but it would help us in our planning down the road, what the best way is to use all those in conjunction with the infrastructure and the parks plan and everything else. So it kind of goes along, like I said, with everything else.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Jason. All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn.